Hi, folks. Toby here. Welcome back to the show. Recently, I was a panelist at a Maslin Westar Chamber event, and the topic was really insightful. So I thought, why not bring that same information to you here? Now, this is an absolute barn burner of a topic for this week. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Standard operating procedures, or SOPs. These can be the secret weapon that lets you spend more time working on your business rather than in your business. Some of the questions. First one was, why do so many small business owners resist creating SOPs even when they know that they need them? There are three main points of resistance that I see consistently. The first one is the time paradox. Owners feel too busy running the business to document how to run the business. They are stuck in survival mode where every hour must generate immediate revenue or put out fires. SOPs feel like a luxury that you just can't afford, even though they're drowning in the chaos that SOPs could solve. The second one is identity resistance. Many owners built their business on being the person who knows everything, the one who can do everything. And creating SOPs sometimes means admitting that somebody else could do the job, which can feel threatening. There's also the fear that documenting their knowledge makes them replaceable, or that the business would lose its special touch, the secret sauce that only exists in their head. Third, and this one is huge, is perfectionism paralysis. Business owners think that SOPs need to be these massive corporate style manuals before they're worth creating. They've never built SOPs before, and so they don't know where to start. And rather than start imperfectly, they don't start at all. This is why a messy SOP today is infinitely more valuable than a perfect SOP that never gets created. The second question was, what's the difference between documenting what you do and creating SOPs that others can actually follow? This is critical. Documentation is descriptive. It explains what happens. An SOP is prescriptive. It tells somebody what to do step by step to get a specific outcome. I'll give you an example. Documentation may say that we send welcome emails to new clients with account information and resources. That's nice, but it's useless for training. An actual SOP says within 2 hours of contract signing to open the welcome email template in the mail client, fill in the client name and account number from the contract, attach the client portal guide PDF from the shared drive, CC the account manager and sales rep. 5, send and move the contract to active clients folder. The difference is that somebody who has never done that task before should be able to achieve the same result by following the SOP. Good SOPs answer who does this, when is it triggered, and what is the exact sequence? What does success look like? And where are the resources that I need to accomplish that goal? And critically, what are the common mistakes or decision points? Documentation captures knowledge. SOPs transfer capability. That is the distinction that matters. Question 3 to the panel was, which processes should be documented first to create the fastest relief for the owner? And my answer is to start with your repetitive bottlenecks, the tasks that only you can do that happen frequently and cause delays if you are unavailable. I usually recommend beginning with a process in each of 3 categories. The first one is to document your client onboarding process. That typically happens multiple times a month. It involves multiple team members. And when it goes wrong, it damages your most important relationships. Plus, it's usually 80% repeatable with just 20% customization. And the second is pick your most frequent internal approval process or decision process. Maybe it's approving social media posts or reviewing proposals or authorizing refunds under a certain amount. These create bottlenecks because people are consistently waiting on you. Document what your decision criteria is so that others can act. And the third is to choose one revenue generating process that you currently do yourself that could be delegated. Perhaps it's initial sales calls or creating proposals or reporting. These things directly buy you back time to focus on growth. The moral of the story is don't document everything at once. Document the process that's currently causing you the most pain or taking the most hours out of your week. Feel that relief and then do the next one. Momentum matters more than perfection. Question 4 was, how detailed is too detailed when building SOPs for a smaller team? The right level of detail depends on who's following the SOP and how critical the outcome is. I use what I call the Tuesday test. If your most competent team member tried to do this task on a hectic random Tuesday, would they get it right using only your SOP? For higher stakes and frequent tasks like handling data breaches or annual tax prep, you want granular detail because people aren't going to remember the steps from year to year, and the cost of errors is high. For routine and frequent tasks performed by experienced staff, you can be more concise. Your morning coffee routine doesn't need an SOP that says lift cup to mouth, tilt 15 degrees. Experienced people need the what and the why, not necessarily the micro how. So here's the practical rule. If you find yourself writing the words obviously or simply in an SOP, you're probably not detailed enough. What's obvious to you isn't obvious to a new hire. Conversely, if your SOP takes longer to read than to do the actual task, you've probably overdone it. The beauty of small businesses is that you can test this. Hand your SOP to somebody and watch them try to follow it. The places where they hesitate or ask questions, that's where you need more detail. Number 5, how do SOPs change the way you hire, train, and hold team members accountable? SOPs fundamentally transform all 3 areas. For hiring, you can now hire more for attitude and culture fit rather than just for looking for people who have done that job before. Your SOPs become the institutional knowledge, so you're not limited to candidates with 5 years of industry experience. You can hire somebody smart and motivated and then train them effectively. For training, SOPs compress what used to take months into weeks. Instead of shadowing you indefinitely while you're trying to run the business, that new hire can work through SOPs with a mentor if needed and practicing until that they are competent. Training becomes consistent. Every person gets the same quality of information, not just whatever you remembered to tell them at that time. This also means you're no longer the training bottleneck, but accountability is where it gets really powerful. Without SOPs, performance conversations are subjective and emotional. You're not doing it right versus I thought I was. With SOPs, you have an objective standard. The conversation becomes, here's the SOP we agreed to, here's where the outcome differed, and let's talk about what happened. It removes the personal conflict and focuses on the process. SOPs also reveal where you maybe have a training problem versus a performance problem. If someone can't follow a clear SOP, that tells you something different than if the SOP itself is unclear or incomplete. Question 6, what role does trust or lack of it play in an owner's reluctance to let SOPs run the business? Trust issues show up in 2 ways, and they're both deeply, deeply human. The first is the nobody cares like I care belief. Business owners think that their personal attention and judgment are what make the business successful, and they're not entirely wrong, but they overestimate exactly how much of that is irreplaceable intuition versus transferable process. The painful truth is that most business owners don't trust their team to follow SOPs because they've never created an environment where following the process is expected, supported, and reinforced. They've been the ones swooping in to save the day for so long that their team has learned to be helpless. Creating SOPs without addressing this dynamic, it's pointless. The second trust issue is actually self-trust. Many owners don't trust that they can adequately capture their knowledge in a documented form. They worry, what if I miss something critical? Or what if the SOP leads someone to make a terrible mistake? So they keep everything in their head where they can control it. The moral of this story is that SOPs don't eliminate your judgment. They elevate where you apply it. You're now moved from being involved in every decision to being involved in the decisions that actually need your expertise. But you can't get there if you won't trust the process. Start small with low risk processes, prove to yourself that SOPs work, and then build from there. The businesses that scale are the ones where the owner learns to trust systems more than their own exhaustion. Question 7: how do SOPs help protect a business from turnover, burnout, and unexpected absences? I will paint a scenario that is every small business owner dreads. Your best employee gives a 2 weeks notice, or you end up in the hospital for a week, or someone takes family leave. Without SOPs, you are in crisis mode. Knowledge walks out the door. Critical tasks get dropped, quality plummets, and you're scrambling to piece together what that person did and how they did it. With SOPs, you have business continuity, not perfect continuity. There's still a transition period, but instead of losing 100% of someone's capability when they leave, you might lose 20. The remaining 80% is captured in your processes and can be transferred to somebody else. For burnout, SOPs are preventative medicine. When everything depends on you personally, you can never truly disconnect. You're checking messages on vacation, taking calls during dinner, and working on weekends because the business literally can't function without you. SOPs distribute that cognitive load. Other people can make decisions, handle problems, and keep things running. You can actually take a day off because you're not coming back to chaos. The businesses I've seen grow sustainably are the ones where the owner isn't a single point of failure. SOPs create redundancy, not in a corporate bureaucracy kind of way, but in a this business is resilient kind of way. Your business becomes bigger than any one person, including you. And that's when it becomes valuable as an asset, not just a job you own. Question 8: what mistakes do business owners commonly make when implementing SOPs for the first time? The biggest mistake, hands down, is trying to do too much at once. You might get inspired and decide to document everything. You spend 3 months creating 50 SOPs that no one ever uses. You get discouraged and you trash the whole initiative. SOPs should be implemented gradually, process by process, with real people using them and testing them and providing feedback. Second is creating SOPs in isolation. The owner locks themselves in a room and documents how they think everything should work, and then gets frustrated when their team doesn't follow their own rules. The people actually doing the work need to be involved in creating the SOP. Often they know the shortcuts or the edge case that you have completely forgotten about. And they're far more likely to use SOPs that they helped build. The third is writing instead of showing. Not everything needs to be a text document. Some processes are better captured by videos or checklists, templates, or flowcharts. I've seen owners write 5 pages explaining how to do something that could be a 2-minute screen grab. Use the format that creates the process easiest to follow. The fourth is treating SOPs as a one and done project rather than a living system. Processes change, tools change, best practices evolve, and you need to create SOPs that are updated so that they don't become obsolete and people stop using them. And then finally, implementing SOPs without addressing accountability and culture. If you create beautiful SOPs, but never check if people are using them, never reinforce them during training, and never reference them when problems occur, they are just documents in a folder. SOPs require leadership, commitment to actually work. Number 9, how do you keep SOPs from becoming outdated, ignored, or just shoved into a digital drawer? This is where most SOP initiatives go to die. So I'm glad we hit this one. You need 3 things: accessibility, ownership, and integration. For accessibility, your SOP needs to live where your team actually works. If they are in a PDF buried in a shared drive somewhere, they're useless. There's tools out there like Notion or Process Street or Trainual or even a Google Doc with a clear structure. The rule is if somebody can't find the SOP they need in under 30 seconds, your system has failed. Ownership means that every SOP has a specific person responsible for keeping it current. This isn't the small business owner, it's the person who performs the process most frequently. When something changes, they update the SOP. Make this part of their role and not an extra task. When in team meetings, you review which SOPs have changed this month, who's updating them. But integration is what actually keeps SOPs alive. Reference them constantly. When training somebody, use the SOP. When somebody asks how to do something, point them to the SOP. When reviewing quarterly quality issues, check the SOP first. When you hire somebody, their first week involves working through relevant SOPs under a mentor's guidance. SOP should be part of your daily language. What does the SOP say becomes a normal question. And I also recommend a quarterly SOP audit. Pick 5 at random and have somebody unfamiliar with them try to follow them and see what breaks. Make updates accordingly. Treat your SOPs like living software that needs regular maintenance, not like a history book that you write once and park on a shelf. Question 10 was, in what ways can SOPs increase flexibility and creativity rather than limiting it? And this is a paradigm shift for most people who think that SOPs mean rigidity. The opposite is true. SOPs create freedom by establishing a baseline. Here's how this works practically. Let's say you have an SOP for handling client complaints. It might outline the standard response of acknowledge in 2 hours, assess the issue, propose a solution in 24 hours, etc. This doesn't mean that every complaint gets an identical response. It means your team doesn't waste mental energy trying to figure out the basic structure so they can focus their creativity on the unique aspect of each solution, the specific solution, the one for this particular client, the compensation that makes sense. SOPs also enable delegation, freeing the owner to think strategically. When routine operations run smoothly without you, you have time for creative thinking and strategy testing, new ideas and innovation. You are not stuck in the weeds. You can actually work on the business instead of in the business. And here's something kind of counterintuitive. SOPs make it easier to experiment. If you want to test a new approach, you document it as a temporary variation on the SOP. You try it for a month, measure the results, and then either adopt it permanently or revert. Without SOPs, you can't even tell if a change helped because you don't have a baseline. Structure enables creativity. It always has. Question 11. What measurable changes have you seen? Revenue, time, stress, consistency after implementing SOPs? Now, the metrics are going to vary from business to business, industry to industry, but I can share some patterns that I've seen repetitively. The most immediate change is time recovery. Owners report getting back hours per week within the first 90 days of implementing some core SOPs. That's time that was previously spent answering repetitive questions, redoing somebody else's work, or being personally involved in routine operations. For revenue, businesses with solid SOPs typically see year over year growth because the owner can really focus on business development and strategy rather than day to day operations. There's a digital marketing agency I knew that couldn't take on any new clients because their delivery was so chaotic. After implementing some core SOPs, they went from 8 to 23 clients in 18 months with the same core team, and that tripled revenue. Quality consistency improves dramatically. Error and mistake rates drop, customer complaints decrease, and client satisfaction scores increase. Employee retention often improves because jobs don't become less stressful and less chaotic. People aren't guessing how to do their work or getting blamed for mistakes when they weren't properly trained. Clear expectations and proper training make jobs more satisfying. The hardest metric to qualify is stress reduction. Owners report sleeping better, taking actual vacations, and feeling like they own a business instead of the business owning them. That's the change that makes everything else possible. The key is you have to measure. Pick 3 to 5 metrics before you start, track them monthly, and just watch what happens. Question 12 was, if a business owner could make only one step this month toward building SOPs, what should it be and why? So here's what I want you to do: identify the one process that happened this week that frustrated you the most, where you thought, I have explained this 100 times, or I can't believe I'm still doing this myself, or this took way longer than it should have. That process right there. Record yourself doing it next time. Use a tool like Scribe or Loom or even your phone, whatever. Just screen record or video record yourself performing that task while narrating what you're doing and why. It's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. Don't edit it. Don't make it perfect. Just capture it. Then have somebody else try to follow your recording and do the thing. Watch where they struggle. That shows you where you need more clarity. Turn those notes into a simple written checklist or step-by-step guide. And congratulations, you've created your first SOP. Why start here? Because that gives you that little immediate dopamine hit of relief when someone else can now do what you were doing without asking you. It proves that SOPs work, and it's so much easier to do the second one after you felt relief from the first one. Don't overthink it. Don't buy fancy software. Don't chase shiny objects. Don't document everything. Just capture one painful process this week and feel that relief when somebody else can do it. And that momentum will carry you to the next SOP. The business you want is built one SOP at a time, starting with the one that is hurting you today. That is where you begin.